couple signed in. First up, Gary Peterson.
Hello, Gary Peterson, 509 South 222nd. I want to talk about 5th Street. It's getting really horrible now. People are racing up and down the hill, and I just want to mind you guys is it's getting more and more bad. The neighbors around are saying the same thing, and Bob next door, he told me it's getting really bad, but we need to shut that 5th Street down, or one way. It just needs to happen soon, or have speed bumps. It just constantly keep going. And the other day I was making the left turn, I almost got hit. A car went right through the intersection without stopping, and going down there's a stop sign, and they don't stop down there, making a right sharp turn going down the marina. And that sign is crooked. It's need to be straightened, and that street needs to get done as soon as possible. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Gary. So I do have a couple presenters here from the King County Library System that will be up in just a moment, but is there anyone else who expected to give public comment tonight and did not realize that they needed to sign in order to do that and would like to make a comment? All right, so I would like to invite Felicia Wilson and Eric Matthews up to the podium from the King County Library System. Welcome, I'm so glad you're so glad to have you here tonight.
I am so stoked to be here. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Felicia Wilson. I am the Regional Library Manager for Soundview Region, which includes the Des Moines and Woodmont Libraries in the city of Des Moines. And I'm here with Eric Matthews, who is our Library and Information Services Manager. And we're here to talk about some of the great services being provided at both libraries in Des Moines, Woodmont, and Des Moines, which is right around the corner. And you were given some statistics, and to me, that's just, it doesn't really give you how much is going on within our libraries. And I would just like to thank the great staff we have at both locations, because this is a diverse community, and the libraries provide great services to all community members, and I think that's reflected in the number of users that are actively using cards, the number of users we've signed up in the last year. We do story time at Des Moines, and there's 40 to 60 kids, and when I got here 5 years ago, that was unheard of. So I think really is the great work of the staff at both locations and their dedication to serving this community of Des Moines. So I'm going to turn it over to Eric so he can give you more details about some of the great programs that we're having coming up in the next couple of months. Okay, thank you.
Mayor, members of council, I am Eric Matthews. I use he, him pronouns. I'm a library and information service manager for the Woodmont and Des Moines Library, which is just a fancy way of saying I've got an awesome job of supporting our librarian team in developing and delivering the programs and services at Des Moines and Woodmont, which I'd like to talk about some of them today. Of course, we've got our summer reading program that started in June this year. It's a Curious Creature themed program. It's a little different than other years. So far, we've seen 20,000 young readers throughout the county sign up, and when they sign up, they get a welcome kit with a box that has a bookmark, a reading log, some stickers, some other swags, a coupon to Red Robin, and a a book provided by our KCLS Foundation. And one of the reasons why we wanted to give them a book to start off with is we really wanted to emphasize that positive connection between reading and supporting them through the summer. And rather than having it be a prize to be earned or a proof that they are readers, we really wanted to acknowledge them and celebrate them as readers from the start. So once they reach their reading goal starting on July 1st, they're able to come into the library and get a finisher prize. And they're also able to enter in a drawing for some additional prizes, one of which each library in the system will be awarding a young reader, one lucky reader, a e-reading device. So that's pretty cool. Some of the other programs that we have going on is we've got a summer meal program that's running Monday through Thursday at the Woodmont Library from 1:30 to 2:30. That's a partnership that we've had this year with the Federal Public Schools system. They're bringing their Fred bus, which is a big green bus full of games, activities, and summer meals. And it's open for anybody in the community. You don't need to be a Federal Public School student to go there, but that's from ages 0 to 17. We've also got so many story times to provide our younger readers. Vietnamese story time, sensory story time, STEAM story times, family story times, a creepy critter story time, and there's a few more I'm missing, but there's plenty there. We've also got some fantastic teen programs, a teen summer book club, teen hangouts, a tin box art program, an improv workshop coming up at the Woodmont Library, game nights at Des Moines, movie nights, robotics and STEM programming, all ages programming. We've got a garden club and gardening program at the Woodmont Library that supports the seed library there, which it's not too late to still grab some seeds and get a few things started. Last year we gave away over 2,000 seed packets, and this year we're on pace to go farther than that this year. We've also got plenty of craft programs for those who like to craft, a craft hour, community creators, an embroidery class coming up, a printmaking class, book clubs, Hawaiian dance programs, Medicare, public health, transportation program, scam awareness and prevention programs, and English conversation practice programs. And also just as early literacy and making sure that young readers are supported with our summer reading program and prizes, adult literacy is just as important. And this year we launched a partnership with the Seattle Public Library and the Seattle Arts and Lectures to do a book bingo that goes to September 2nd. So for all adult readers, they can come in. If they get a bingo, they get entered to win a drawing for a tote bag designed by a local artist who also designed the bingo card. If you get a blackout, you enter to get a drawing for a Create Your Own Series subscription to Seattle Arts and Lectures, of which 3 members from KCLS will win that. So we've got a lot going on, and that's just barely scratching the surface of what we can offer everybody in our community. It's wonderful that we have 2 libraries here, and thank you. Have a nice night.
Excellent presentation. So appreciate you. So speaking of curious creatures, you might want to touch base sometime with Councilmember Mahoney over here. Did you know that Des Moines is the 6-gill shark capital of the world, and they're celebrating that just in a couple more weeks?
You'll find us that shark in the park. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. Okay. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. I'm going to pass that back. Thank you so much for your patience. We have one more item before the families get to come up and celebrate their family members here. So next up on the agenda is our regional committee reports. We are piloting a different kind of committee structure right now. So we don't have very many committee chairs, but we do have council members that serve out in the regional community at regional tables and represent Des Moines there. And so this is an opportunity for council members who do that work to report out. So I know we do operate a very large committee in town that does have a chair. The deputy mayor chairs that, so he'll have a report out, and if anybody else has something during this segment as well. Go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, last night the Citizens Advisory Board, formerly known as the Citizens Advisory Council, but CAB sounds better than CAC, so, and they suggested they wanted that name, and it was adopted by the council, I believe, a couple of meetings ago, that we would start calling it the Advisory Board. Meeting was attended not only by the existing Citizens Advisory Committee members, but also the members of the Senior Citizens Advisory Board, the Senior Services Advisory Board, and members of the Arts Commission, because all 3 of those are now going to be under the umbrella of the Citizens Advisory Board. And we worked on a lot of sort of procedural things with everybody in the committee. And everybody got a chance to talk, and everybody shared exactly what what their impressions were, and we kind of worked through a lot of things, because integrating, into an existing structure and reforming it is sometimes a little hard and a little difficult, and nobody's quite clear what's happening. But, all in all, it was a really good meeting. The minutes will be out soon, and that is the accurate way that things have happened at the meeting. And so if anybody's that is interested in finding out what happened at the Citizens Advisory Board, I would encourage them to go there. And when the minutes are published, probably the beginning of next week. So, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other council member report out? Councilmember Harris.
Thank you. I attended the Regional Transit Committee meeting for this. Basically covers King County Transit, and they had some stats on the Club World Cup, and in kind of connection with the airport. Last weekend was the single busiest day at SeaTac Airport in their history. And the fact that nobody noticed it means that they are learning how to accommodate increased capacity. It wasn't a holiday or anything like that. They are just learning how to process more people. And they considered this to be a trial run for next year. There's just one little notable thing. In the past, it's always been that 50% of transit has been people commuting, going to work. But now it's the case that close to half of it are scheduled trips for things like going to soccer matches and going downtown. It's becoming normative to plan a day out for recreation and so forth. And that's a really good thing, but they also, I'll share some graphs later, but they have a ton of capacity. It's not that they don't have capacity for more riders, it's that they don't have enough buses where people want to go. But anyway, that's just an interesting little stat I thought I'd share. Thank you.
Okay. Councilmember Mahoney.
Last week, we had the skateboard meeting, South County, representing South County Transportation. Basically, I'll shorten the version. We had some discussions on coordination between different jurisdictions and so forth. But the big one was youth transit. If you don't know this, anyone under 18 can ride for free. But what they're trying to encourage is them to get ORCA cards. And part of the reason is they can track the benefit. And it makes it a little easier, especially when the kids are getting a little older and might look 22, but they're 17, Anyway, it just makes it easier on the riders. So they ask that people try to do that. They can do it online, very simple. They can do it through their schools, other kinds of things as well. That's all.
Thank you. Anything else? All right. We'll move on to the next section of the meeting, which is kind of exciting. I'm going to hand the baton to the city manager for the city manager's report.
Thank you. Our first item is some promotional opportunities for two members of our police department. So I'll let Chief Bo take it from here.
Thank you so much, and thank you for giving me a few minutes of your time. Tonight we have two officers on our police department that are promoting to the rank of sergeant. I kind of want to talk a little bit about that rank and how important it is. At the end of the day, when I get done with this meeting, I go home and I go to bed, and so do all of you. And the person who leads your department in the middle of the night is the sergeant. They're the ones that run the shift. They're the ones that call Corey or I if something comes up in the middle of the night. But they're the ones making all those decisions in the middle of the night until I can get out of bed and get back up here. Super instrumental in the leadership of your department that you have great people in those roles. So when we have a vacancy, we use a third-party vendor that comes in and reviews all of our candidates. They have to go through an all-day assessment center, do mock exercises, they review their work history, and they send me a list of who are the best people. It's not a personality contest, it's a knowledge, skills, and abilities test. And the reason that's so important is because of how instrumental this job is in protecting not only the liability of the city, but also the welfare of our community. So
I really just want to stress, like, the importance of today is these two officers have done so much great work. Outside people have looked and said, those are the people who need to be leading your department in the middle of the night when you guys are sleeping. So with that, it's a great honor tonight to promote two people to the rank of sergeant. I'll call them each up and we'll pin a badge on each one of them. And then after we do a badge pinning, I'll ask the mayor to come down and join me in swearing them in with an oath, and then we'll do pictures. So without further ado, Courtney Duncan, come on down. So Courtney Duncan has served the Des Moines Police Department since 2015, and today she will be promoted to the rank of sergeant. Throughout her career, she's worked patrol, field training, drone operations, peer support, and contributed to the department initiatives focused on community safety and professional development. She serves as an active bystander for law enforcement instructor, helping equip our officers with the tools to intervene and support the others in the field. Her promotion reflects her commitment to service and the continued development of her career in law enforcement. Her family joins us tonight as we celebrate this milestone. Courtney, who would you like to pin your badge this evening? I'll read both of them and then we'll. And I want to share for both of y'all, part of this is a family. It's not just a family of those wearing the uniform, it's a family of the entire city. It's a family of our profession, and it's the family that surrounds you every day. So we love having families here. I love having kids giggle in the background. My kids are older now, so I don't get like that most beautiful sound that was going on over there that made me smile, and it makes us happy. So please, families are 100% welcome, and that's super important that we think about it in that light. Nate, Chevalier, come down. Nate Chevalier has served with the Des Moines Police Department since 2008. Today, he is being promoted to the rank of sergeant. He has held assignments in patrol, field training officer, he's been our recruiting officer, and as a school resource officer. He leads our department's defensive tactics and less lethal ammunitions program. He also serves as the president of our Police Officers Guild, supporting his fellow officers and contributing to the department-wide growth. His promotion reflects a continued commitment to service, development, and leadership. We're proud to recognize his achievement and welcome his family tonight to come pin his badge. Thank you, sir. Now I will ask the mayor and Courtney and Nate to come on down. I have a flag for backdrop. What's your backdrop? Flag. Okay. What I'm going to do is I have the two of you stand in front of the podium. That'll work. And if you will both raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name. I, Nate Chevalier, do solemnly reaffirm my oath. Do solemnly reaffirm my oath. To support and defend. To support and defend. The Constitution of the United States. The Constitution of the United
thought you were doing this. A picture of that. Oh, dang. I know. I was like, oh, I almost got a picture of you guys doing that.
We're coming.
Oh, here we go, here we go.
And you can come up, but here, we don't fight.
I'm leaning back. I mean, I'm not in your photo. Yeah, this is hard.
Yeah.
I kind of want to pop up behind him now.
Thank you, congratulations.
Congratulations.
Good job, excellent. Woo! You can give them a minute if you can.
All right, it's hard to follow that up, but Jeff and I are ready for the assignment. Our next item before we get into the financial reports is I want to give the council an update on our strategic planning and facilitation services. You all will recall at the March 6th study session, I spoke with you all about the kind of strategic plan process and what this would look like. This was something that came up even during the city manager recruitment process, and I think we've talked quite a bit about it. But you can see on the screen some of the feedback I received from the council at the study session about really what the council's goals were for this project. And then additionally, I got some feedback about what really the ideal team would be that we would be working with. And again, at a high level, the strategic plan is really a document that is the overarching sort of, not just vision, but really goals and priorities for both from the council and community's perspective that then informs the work staff does, and most importantly, also informs where we spend resources. So this is something very common in many communities to have this. So I'm excited that Des Moines will be able to begin this process as well. So we issued the RFQ, a request for qualifications for firms that do this type of work in March. We received 6 responses from Raftellus, Trepepi Smith, SGR, Creative Strategy Solutions, Opportunity Strategies, and Sageland Strategies. Of those 6 firms, a committee of senior staff reviewed and evaluated those proposals. We interviewed 3 of the firms. Following that interview and reference check, we are recommending Raftellus as the organization we work with. So I want to talk a little bit about Raftellus and why the staff work group is recommending them. They are a multidisciplinary firm that is nationwide. They exclusively work with cities and utilities, and as you can see, they've worked with more than 1,200 cities, so this is definitely in their wheelhouse. They have done strategic planning for Washington cities as well before. Several council members felt like that was important. Others were sort of open to other experiences, but they also have several other kind of King County cities scheduled to be working with in 2026. And then most importantly, the consultant team specifically that we're working with, the lead, she has more than 30 years of experience, and she primarily works with West Coast cities. So she is familiar with some of the kind of dynamics and pressures that are in this region. So our next steps are we will be negotiating a scope of work and a fee. I anticipate bringing that back to the council for consideration for your July 10th meeting. And then I received some questions about how does this really work with also the current long-range financial work through the consultant group FCS that we already have going on. So they really are complementary to each other. So the FCS work, which is the long-range financial plan, was also the component of that project where we would be looking at what are fiscal impacts that come from certain development land use decisions. That work is going on now and will be concluding by the end of the year, which is actually a perfect time to sort of help inform the strategic planning process. So we anticipate really a lot of community engagement and stakeholder engagement happening in the last half of 2025, and that is sort of perfect timing for the council to take both community feedback, the information we learn through the long-range financial planning to help inform really the council's work when you all put together really what are those strategic goals and priorities. We are also going to take into account council transitions. We obviously have an election in November, and we know that there will be at least 2 new faces on the council, and so we are working with this team to sort of take that into account to make sure this is a document that kind of bridges that election process and takes advantage of sort of the input and wisdom from everybody, both existing members and if we have new members join the council in January. So that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I will be back at the July 10th meeting with a scope of work and a fee for your consideration.
Deputy Mayor Steinmetz.
Yeah, can you just give us in sort of a nutshell, what was it that set Raftellus apart from the other firms that at least you interviewed?
Yeah, I think it was partially the volume of this type of work that they do. Again, you saw they've worked with over 1,200 cities. I mean, strategic planning this is a firm that does a lot of different types of work, but strategic planning is a core service area for them. So they have a depth of working with all sorts of different communities that in the interview and kind of follow-up conversations I had with them, as well as references, it was very apparent that they are highly skilled at sort of adapting to different communities. I'd say the second thing was the firm size. So some of the firms we looked at were very small, maybe a 1 or 2 person shop. And although you can do a strategic plan through that, I think we're going to get the benefit of a team that has a lot of kind of public engagement skills, some tools that they have to their disposal that, you know, a smaller group may not have. And then their references were excellent. I mean, I've known Raftellus for a long time. They have a terrific reputation in like the field of local government management, but specifically this consultant team, I spoke to 4 cities that had worked with her, and they were universally, you know, very positive. And there were 4 very different communities, so I took that as a good sign.
Thank you.
Councilmember Nutting or Councilmember Oxiger, any questions? Okay.
No, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, then I will bring you all back a scope of work and a contract for consideration July 10th. Okay, our next item, we have 2 financial reports. Jeff's gonna do the year end for 2024, and then he and I will work together on 2025. Before we start this, I want to sort of prepare everyone. This is a longer presentation on our finances, but I think it's very important. The council and the public have not gotten a presentation on the state of the city's finances since we did the budget in December. So I think it's really important we take a few extra minutes and really talk through the city's finances and sort of what's to come. So you'll see more of that in the Q1 report, but I just want to let you know this is a little longer than maybe what they've been in the past. But Jeff, you want to take it away?
Good evening, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Council, residents, coworkers. This is the fourth quarter 2024 financial report, and as was mentioned, we'll be following it up with the 2025 first quarter report. And as Catherine acknowledged, it is June, and this report is reporting on December. It's not unusual to be asked why there's such a large gap in time, and it relates to the fact that we have to do annual financial statements that are due to the state by May 30th. Therefore, that's a higher priority, and then we have our final numbers, and then in June, we report the final numbers for the fourth quarter. However, because of that gap in time, it is possible, if council is interested, we could do a preliminary fourth quarter report next year, which would shorten that time. We could do it in February or March, but that would be a draft. I mean, they wouldn't be final numbers, but it would at least address that large gap in time from the end of the period to when it's reported. So having said that, these reports for both quarters, the details are in the packet, and they're also online on the Finance Department webpage under Financial Reports. And so now off we go for December of 2024. Highlights from last year for the general fund. Operating income was about $500,000, so we were on the positive side of the ledger, which is a good thing. Revenue and expenditures were both 96.7% of budget. And fund balance was over 16.67%, barely. That was supposed to be animated and show up in school, but didn't work. But it was barely over 16.67%, and we'll talk about that more in depth later in this presentation. Outside of the general fund, Marina net income was about $944,000, and of course that is not just operating, but that's after the marina pays for capital work and pays for its debt payments, and then what was left over was $944,000. Surface water management, their net income was again about $500,000, and like the marina, they pay for a lot of capital work as well. So after operations and after making other payments for capital work, that's what was left over from their income. And I'm sure the public is interested how the Redondo speed cameras were doing. For last year, revenue was about $883,000. And just as a reminder, that's not for the whole year. The cameras came online around June, I believe, last year. Okay, so looking a little closer at the general fund. This chart shows the revenue and expenditures for last year. So they're pretty comparable as far as revenue is $26.6 million, expenditures were $26.1, which that's your $500,000 of income. The total budget for revenue was $27.5 million, and for expenditures was about $27 million. So they both landed 96.7%, both under budget. Though if revenue had been over budget, I wouldn't complain. General fund operating income was, again, as I mentioned, $507,852 with an asterisk. And the asterisk is because you have to remember last year that about $2.5 million of ARPA money was put into the general fund to support the general fund. So had we not had that ARPA money, it would have been more of like a $2 million loss. So we're happy that it was on the other side of the ledger, but we have to remember that there was a reason we had to put in $2.5 million. Looking at revenue, this schedule shows the different revenue categories. The amounts, the column with the arrows shows its relation to the amounts from the prior year, 2023. And then how over or under budget those categories are and the percent of the variance. So one thing that's notable is all the categories were under budget. The categories that were had increased from the prior year were utility taxes, sales tax, B&O tax, and franchise fees. So you have 4 categories that, though they are under budget, they had increased from the prior year. Property tax has a yellow arrow because it was barely under the amount from the prior year, like by $26,000. Red light running is down is actually under budget. 141,000 is down from the prior year because apparently drivers drive safer around those cameras, not anywhere else, but or at least around those cameras. One-time sales taxes are both down significantly and significantly under budget, mainly due to the 2 projects that was supporting that revenue were winding down last year. So that was why there was such a large decrease in one-time sales taxes and B&O tax. On the expenditure side, personnel was up from the prior year, but under budget. It was yellow because it was only 2.9% more than the prior year, which really accounts for the cost of living adjustment. Supplies, services, internal services were all down from 2023, with services and internal services both being significantly under budget. Capital work, which really isn't significant for the general fund, was down because I think we did some remodeling in the court the prior year, and we didn't do that in 2024. And then transfers out, that's really a debt payment, so it went up a little bit because the debt payment that was required was a little bit more in 2024 than 2023. So personnel, all categories were under budget aside from supplies and that capital work. Okay, general fund balance and operating reserve. This is from the municipal code. The city manager is directed to establish expenditure policies that will result in a general fund unrestricted ending balance or operating reserve of no less than 2 months, amounting to 16.67%, because 2 months out of the year is that percentage, of the recurring operating expenditures for each fiscal year. The general fund unrestricted ending balance may not fall below the 16.67% of recurring operating expenditures unless authorized by the city council. So there's 2 items here, is the fund balance and the operating reserve. The fund balance is, and I don't want to get into the accounting weeds, but fund balance is what we calculate when we use accrual accounting as a method of accounting. And operating reserve is really your cash. That's, and that's reflective of the cash basis method of accounting. So the way to think about it is if you have a utility bill that you receive in June for the utilities that expenses you incurred in May, under accrual accounting, we would say that you had that expense in May because that's when you incurred the expense. And then there's a lot of accounting stuff that goes along with that. So with fund balance, that's how we report expenditures. We match the transaction to the period, and then that creates receivables and payables and all this other stuff that goes into the calculation of fund balance. On the cash side, when you get your May utility bill in June and you pay it in June, that would record that expense in June because all cash cares about is when cash comes in the door, when cash goes out the door. So when we look at fund balance, we're looking at the big fancy accounting, calculation with all those fancy things, and that's usually a higher number. And then operating reserve, cash basis, all this is how much cash you have in the bank. So this part of the code addresses both. So it says one of those has to be over 16.67%. So for fund balance, it equaled $4.4 million and was 16.72%. So barely over the threshold. If we look at a 10-year history of the fund balance for the city of Des Moines, going back to 2015, you can see the highest point was in about 2017, where it was a bit over $8 million. And you can see from 2022 to now, it declining and pretty much matching the threshold. The light blue line is the 16.67% threshold. The darker blue line is the city's fund balance. So you can see them match up in 2024 because they're so close. On the operating reserve side, our beginning cash was about $2.3 million. We have that income of the $507,000, which left the city's general fund operating reserve at almost $2.9 million, which percentage-wise would be 11.39%. So that's why there's a little warning red triangle next to that, because it's less than the 16.67% that is referred to in the code. If we were at that threshold, we would have $4.2 million of cash. So really, we need about $1.4 million, 1.3 to really get this category up to the minimum threshold. So we fulfilled the code with fund balance being above 16.67%, but the best of both worlds would be nice if both categories were above 16.67%. Special revenue funds. So the development fund actually did better than budget. The budget anticipated that there would be a loss of $675,000. The loss was only about $400,000. One of the key drivers for it performing better than budget was engineering salaries and benefits. Came in about $311,000 under budget. And I think the reason for that is I think that there was more attention paid to where engineering salaries were being expensed. So not all engineering salaries can go a lot of different places depending on what engineers are working on. And so I think it was just managed really well last year, and we saw that affect the budget to actual numbers. ARPA, the city received $9,038,700 of ARPA funds. We've expended almost 99% of those ARPA funds. We have about $75,000 remaining to spend. That represents the contract for the senior center roof, and also one more payment in the food truck program of like $3,000. There is an unobligated amount, unfortunately, of about $17,000. We are required to have all funds obligated by December 31st, 2024. There's two reasons, or two components to this number of the $17,000. One is the state slipped us about $8,800 more than we were supposed to get, and we didn't realize that, so we didn't obligate it. And the other one was that senior center roof contract. I thought it was $80,000. It was actually like 71 and change, and so there was a portion that was also not obligated there. So the $17,000 does need to go back to the federal government, and we've reported that, and so we will, when they come knocking on the door for that money, we'll have to give it back to them. Redondo speed cameras, as we mentioned, the revenue was $883,000. After expenditures, which are the cost of the program, the fund had about $614,000 left. Enterprise funds. Enterprise funds, of course, are separated because they run on the fees and charges of the users of the service. So for the marina had a total income of $2.26 million. After that income was earned, they have debt service payments on two different sets of bonds. So you can see there's the 2018 bonds and then the 2023 bonds. They had other non-operating expenses, which usually relates to capital work. So after those expenditures are taken into consideration, their net income was about $944,000. I did not put the ending cash for the year on here. Their ending cash was about $21 million, but you have to remember a large portion of that, about $12.5 million is the proceeds from the bonds that are going to be spent on the dock replacement. So they really had about a little over $8 million in ending cash at the end of last year, aside from the bond money. Okay, surface water management, I have to acknowledge the picture on this slide is not from Des Moines. That's not our surface water management pipes and water. I cannot vouch for the quality of the water in those pipes. But I have reached out to Mike Slevin, our Public Works Director, to get a more Des Moines-centric picture for next quarter. I don't want to ruin the surprise, but 2 words, bird balls. So we'll have a Des Moines-centric picture. Total income for a surface water management fund was almost $3.4 million. And as mentioned, they pay for a number of capital projects. So the 3.3, they spent almost about $2.8 million on capital work. So that's why their net income is as low as about $500,000. And their ending cash and investments was a bit over $11 million of cash. And that concludes the 2024 report. If there's any questions.
Deputy Mayor Steinmetz. Deputy Mayor Steinmetz.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure I understand the revenue from the Redondo cameras. Is the revenue, is that what's actually been collected? Or is that the total amount that we have sent tickets out to people for violating those cameras?
That's what we've collected.
It's actual collections. That's just amazing. What, do you have any idea what the rate of collection is?
I'm not sure. I'd have to follow up to get that answer.
Is it significant? I mean, are we,
Melissa Patrick, our court administrator, has indicated, I mean, by and large, the vast majority of people are just paying the ticket. So we're getting really solid compliance. I will say, though, we are, now this is through end of 2024. Initial 2025 data we're seeing shows the cameras are working, meaning revenue's going down because people are learning that they're there. So, which is important, because the purpose of the cameras is public safety. But just, that is not a revenue that we think we'll be getting, you know, high collections every year.
thank you.
Councilmember Harris.
Thank you. Let's see here. And just because I will get asked, what are the uses of the Redondo speed camera money that we're collecting? I'm sorry, but just.
It's restricted to really street safety, street maintenance, that type of thing. So I would say that's what that's being used for.
Okay.
And for the cost of the program.
Thank you. Just in general, I don't know if you can go back to I got a little confused with the color scheme.
Okay.
Can you explain the green and the yellow and the red?
Yes. I'm glad you asked.
Thank you.
Explain that. The green, if we can go back, and this will be the same case in the next presentation. So green would be, and then the way to think about it is if something's going the direction you want it to. So in this case, for expenditures, we'd like to see them go down. So anything that is going down to any extent would be green. If we're looking at revenue, if it's going up to any extent, it would be green. Yellow would be, if it's going the other way, between 0 and 10%, that would be yellow. Anything worse than that would be red.
So it's a trend.
Yes.
A visual trend indicator. Excellent. And let's see here. Other than compliance with the code, is there any decision-making, just any usefulness left to the whole concept of fund reserve now that we've shifted accounting from accrual?
You mean fund balance versus?
Fund balance versus operating reserve.
My comment on that would be, I look forward to when we don't talk about fund balance and we talk about our cash reserves and our operating reserve, because, and I took, this sounds terrible, but I did take a GFOA course in managing in financial distress, and their comment was cash is king. And that's really our day-to-day focus is on our cash. Where is our cash? Which is what they said to focus on as well. And so I'm more concerned about our operating reserve in the sense of we have to have enough cash. We have enough cash to get us 6 weeks if something happens. I'd like that to be longer, just to have that amount of cash on hand.
Okay, but I'm just, in other words, the fund reserve isn't like another, you know, in Excel, a pivot that would give you another different useful way of, and last, just in general, because the Redondo thing is based on collections, can we assume that any kind of fund sources now are based on cash, meaning we've collected the check has been received?
So when you look at the financial reports?
Yeah.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
Councilmember Mahoney.
So, really quick, about the ARPA money, obviously, giving back less than 0.2% of 1% is pretty good, considering the complexity of it. How would you, I don't know if you got a chance to talk to your cohorts in communities around other cities and so forth. Are you seeing a trend that they're giving back more, or?
I haven't heard of anybody giving back more. I've seen an article on the city of Puyallup got dinged, and it made it sound like they had wasted a couple of $1 million, which was not the case. But if you're not used to knowing what auditors are saying, it makes it sound really bad. They just had an accounting issue, but I haven't heard of anybody giving anything back yet, but I haven't really asked other cities.
Okay, and then the same, and you keep us posted. We'd like to hear, like, next financial report, if you hear a couple of those, we'd like to hear, because I think, what I saw was excellent management of that. I consider this, really pocket change in the scheme of things on that. Not saying that $17,000 isn't a lot of money for anybody, but, considering what all we had to do and the intangibles, I thought you did an excellent job. So same with the Q4 as we finish the year. Obviously, severe inflation going against, which made our expenses much higher than they had, and I thought you guys did some great adjustments. Hats off to, our interim city manager as well in 2024 as well. What are you hearing from some of the other cities relative to this? Are they in the same situation? Are they worse? Are they better? And, you take SeaTac out of it, they kind of got the cash cow of the airport. But have you heard anything along those lines? Because what I'm seeing nationally, state-wise, and so forth is the same thing, but it seems to be a little worse than what we're facing.
I've really just hear general commentary just about in Washington State. It's difficult for cities, particularly small cities, to maintain a healthy general fund balance. And I know, Cle Elum is declared bankruptcy, but that has to do with something probably separate than just struggling in general. So that's kind of just what I've had on the radar. But I can, have those conversations.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how we compare against some of the other cities, because I think we are all having the increased costs, and the revenues have really restrained and reined in, and, we're looking everywhere. There's the perception and talk about we're at taxation, right, and over-taxation, but the cost of everything has been so immense that it's making it very difficult. So I'd be interested in hearing how, if there comes up something where, I know there's some reporting at the state level we can get once everybody finalizes, but I'd be interested in seeing how we compare to our kind of sister cities in the area. Thank you.
Councilmember Grace Matsui.
Thank you. Thanks for the presentation. I had another question about special revenue funds, the development fund. So I know you had said that one of the large reasons here that the engineering salaries and benefits were under budget was because of correct internal billing. And so I'm assuming that means correct internal billing to enterprise accounts. And that had been, I believe, a goal of yours last year. Is that right?
Yeah, I would say, and this is something that I think has improved since our new public works director has come on. Not that I need to suck up to him or anything, but I would say in the past, so when you have an engineer and an engineer is working on different capital projects, say they're working on the Redondo Pier, they need to be charging their time to that. And so when they do that, it doesn't show up in the development fund. And so I think it's just improved management over that department, and then them getting there. Not that they did a bad job, Tommy, sorry. But they're doing a better job at doing that, and I think that showed up in that fund.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate everyone's work on that, but I do know that you had highlighted it in one of our meetings about making sure that things were getting internally billed correctly. So thank you very much for your diligence on that.
Deputy Mayor Steinmetz.
Yeah, just kind of as a follow-up to that, there are certain people in the community that say that one of the ways to take money out of the enterprise funds is to overbuild them. How do we know that those services, like engineering, are not being overbilled to those funds so that the public can be reassured that this is the appropriate amount that is being billed and it's not a cash grab to the general fund.
Well, they don't tend, so the enterprise fund that would actually use engineering hours predominantly would be the SWIM fund, and they have their own engineers. So that, I would say that that would be one response. But just in a more general answer to that, as far as just billing enterprise funds and like trying to overbill them or whatnot, we have a model where we have to, well, to back up a step, the main billing that the general fund would do to those funds is called an indirect cost allocation. Basically, that's how those funds pay for our accounting services, their whatever police services that the general fund provides for them. And we actually have a model that our FCS consultants created for us that we plug in a lot of data to of how we measure that. And then that stands up with the state auditors, because the state auditors will come and ask the same question. And so they review what we did and what calculations we did and see, like, are we gaming the system? And we try not to do that at all. We try to have numbers that we can stand behind.
Thank you.
Councilmember Oxiger and Councilmember Nutting, either of you have any questions? I want to check in with you. Okay. All right, I think that's good then.
Okay, I think we're now going to move to Q1 of FY25. This presentation has some really basic information on sort of our revenues and expenditures at the beginning, and I think that's important. I know the council is well aware of this, but there are people that watch these meetings besides our lovely guests tonight, and I think it's important that we start really talking about some of this information, because taxes are mysterious and confusing, and it's just one giant number people are paying. And so I don't want to miss an opportunity to really clarify really where do your taxes go that come to the city, and what does the city get? So there was definitely some purpose behind some of the information we've provided. So I'm just going to hit on some of those things. We'll talk a little bit about some things that were working for us this year and some things that are working against us this year. I'm very proud of my boat headwinds, tailwinds analogy. This Texan is like catching on. Yeah. And then we are halfway through, thank you. We are, halfway through the year. We do, as you know, biennial budgeting, but we are talking about FY26 and whether or not there may need to be some slight amendments or tweaks made. So I want to just put a couple things on your radar, and then Jeff is going to go through again some real numbers, nuts and bolts. So as a refresher, which I think everyone here remembers, the creation of the FY25 and 26 budget faced some serious challenges. Councilmember Mahoney just referenced the rising inflation and increased operational costs. We had some areas where revenues were just not hitting targets. We did have the results of the Prop 1 election that, of course, informed what our revenues were that we were working with. And then there were some structural deficits. So there was a practice, I think, that began during COVID of using one-time revenue to plug ongoing gaps. And so we really wanted to kind of pull that Band-Aid off and address that issue, which we did do. So the adopted budget for FY25 and 26, I won't go through all of these, but you'll recall, and Councilmember Mahoney's right. I mean, the interim city manager, Tim George, along with all of the department heads and the council, worked very hard to sort of get things in really good shape. And so we've realigned expenses. There were a lot of cuts made. There were new revenues created, but that budget creation was very challenging. So a couple things to just highlight. The budget has some mix of good and bad. So some of the challenges that FY25 and 26 had, we do continue to have several frozen and unfunded police officer positions, which is really not ideal, especially with the demand for services we see. We did have to eliminate a crime analyst position. We did reduce the COLA, which is the cost of living adjustment for certain employees. We reduced staffing in both administration and Parks and Rec, which you all will recall. We've reduced programs and events. We are all very aware of the cuts that were made to animal control services, and we eliminated the downtown beautification significantly. But there were also some real positive things in that budget. There was the new revenue source the council created, which was the square footage warehouse tax, which we'll hit on in a moment. We were able to maintain some of the kind of important community traditions, including 4th of July next week. We were able to include funding for a new website. We are really improving our communication efforts. I hear positive feedback from the community on that, and Bonnie will talk about the new website in a few weeks as we get that kicked off. Not done, kicked off. I want to clarify that. And as Jeff just talked about with the fund balance, we were able to maintain that minimum. I think Jeff and I would both like to see that number higher, but that's a goal for the future. As you all know, we were able to secure grant funding for the police co-responder position, which is a critical service in this community. And then we were able to do some things with certain vacancies. So I'm just highlighting the fact that we were able to reclassify a vacancy into the grants coordinator position, but we did that for a couple other positions where we took an existing vacancy and morphed that position into a position that was more needed at that time. So I do want to hit just briefly on sort of where does the city's money come from? So we spend a lot of time talking about the general fund because that is really the bulk of where Jeff spends a lot of his time and sleepless nights on. But this slide shows all funds, so citywide revenue, which would include the enterprise funds and things like that. What I think is interesting is that taxes are actually only 30% of our revenue. Charges for service are things that come like through the marina and swim, and you can see the other sources there. I'm also very proud that I made this visual. But I did want to talk a little bit about property tax, right? Because I hear from residents all the time, understandably, that their property taxes are just so significant and are a really major thing that they feel. They go to so many agencies, though. I think it's really easy to sort of not get a sense of really how much is going where. So I think what you can see is that your property tax goes to quite a few different entities, and if you were paying only $1 of property tax, which of course you're not, 8 cents of that, so about 8%, goes to the city of Des Moines. So you get police, public works, parks and rec, general government services. Again, not that any one government is better than another, but comparatively, the fire district, which is a single service, gets more proportionally out of your property tax bill than the city does. And so I think that really goes to show that we are not, it's a huge number that people are paying, but the city really is receiving 8% of that. So an example of that really in real numbers is the median home value in Des Moines is pretty close to this. It's a little bit lower, but if your home was appraised at $732,000, your property tax bill of a little over $7,700, $623 goes to the city of Des Moines. So again, I would never tell somebody $7,700 tax bill isn't significant. But I do think when you think about the police services, the roads you drive on, the parks you go to, the city manager reports you get on Fridays, all those great services. I mean, really, the average household, all the great stuff. I mean, that average household is paying in $600 a year. So that is a really challenging number for the city to work with. Additionally, this is just sort of an interesting factoid that I asked our GIS folks to work on. Approximately 30% of the acreage, like land in the city, excluding the right-of-way, is property tax exempt. That is even more sort of like a real challenge that this city works with and navigates. And then you can also see there just, we are predominantly a residential community. And so again, when you look at really wanting to diversify your tax base and reduce tax burden on homeowners and push more to commercial, I mean, predominantly we are heavily a residential community. And so these are some sort of land use factors that I think sometimes we don't talk about when we talk about the city's financial challenges, but are really very important on sort of this is the situation we're in that we navigate and make the best of. I also want to hit real briefly on sales tax. As you all know, sales tax is about 10.2%, so 10 cents on a dollar. The city gets a little less than a penny. So again, just goes to show that you're paying a lot in taxes, but when you really look at what comes to the city directly from taxes, it is challenging for cities to provide the level of services I think residents want with some real limitations on where we get revenue. Focusing on where the money goes, so this shows citywide expenditures, so more than the general fund. I don't want to get like bogged down in all of this, but I think what I want to highlight is the capital expenditures. What makes that number so significant is the bond projects, which you all are well aware of. So it's the little over $25 million bond that the council approved. Those funds really are what live in that capital expenditure chunk. And again, I wanted to make sure, because I feel like somebody's going to flip through these slides and be like, they did not balance their budget. You know, revenues are 74 and expenditures are 98. The difference is related to the bond proceeds. So looking just at the general fund, this is where the money goes by function. Again, what I'd want to highlight here is that a little over 50%, so 54% of the city's general fund is dedicated to police and public safety. So I think that really does show the council's commitment to public safety, despite that we've had some frozen positions and some cuts there. That is definitely, you know, financially the city's #1 priority. So some things that are challenging for us. So some headwinds that the city faces, both in this fiscal year and really the fiscal years to come, are some really unsustainable tax situations that, you know, Jeff just referenced it. I think all cities in Washington struggle with, definitely small cities. I know Jeff talks to other finance directors. I hear a lot from other city managers. We are not alone in these challenges we are facing. But the property tax cap at 1% is very hard for us to keep up with just normal inflation with that. And then another kind of headwind we're facing this year is, I think, you know, if I could go back in time, I would have probably adjusted our assumptions on the warehouse tax to account for ramp-up time to collect that. So that is a new tax for businesses, and so we are making a very concerted effort to collect on that, but because it is not something they are necessarily used to, I mean, we're having to really educate, follow up, call. Jeff's about to start making, you know, house calls, but I mean, I think if I could go back in time, I would have maybe adjusted for that ramp up time a little better. Also, economic outlook. In my city manager update to you guys a few weeks ago, you saw that I included some information from the King County Economist. There is growth expected in King County, but it is pretty limited, and it is less than what I think the county has experienced. The county is like an economy, not the county as a government, than what this area has experienced in the past. And so that's definitely causing quite a bit of uncertainty. And then, of course, what Councilmember Mahoney just referenced, our expenses grow at a faster rate than our revenues. And I definitely think that the staff and the council did a phenomenal job of really scrubbing numbers and looking for places to cut and being efficient. And so when our fixed expenses are just growing at a faster rate, that doesn't mean that we're being wasteful or you know, not being cognizant of dollars. It's just when you're capped so much on your revenues and there are just natural things that go up, it's unsustainable. So to that end, and I won't go through all these in a ton of detail, but you all remember that as we face those challenges, we implemented a whole variety of solutions. So between new revenue streams, that we just talked about a few of those, looking at a ton of operational efficiencies. You know, we reduced like softwares, we merged some departments, we have moved staffing locations to consolidate staffing, all sorts of operational things were done. We obviously have we rely on grants and partnerships. We continue to. We made the investment in a FTE for that sole purpose, which I think will really pay off. We're also working to create a strategic plan. And why I think that's an important financial measure is it shows where we should put our limited resources. So once the community and the council kind of, you know, crystallize what the priorities are, then that's what our dollars need to reflect. And I think it helps that decision-making process. We're also reviewing every fee under the sun, making adjustments. And then this presentation alone, we're really trying to improve both our financial planning, but also our transparency around the city's finances. I know this is not necessarily the most exciting topic, but it's really important that people feel like they can get a sense of where the city's at financially. So some positive things that are happening now, and then we'll get over to Jeff going through some of those specific numbers. Sales tax is trending slightly upward this year. So you all have seen some reports on a month-by-month basis. We are slightly above budget, which is great, but cautious. Utility taxes are also trending slightly ahead of budget. Jeff and his staff have been doing a great job of really updating financial policies and practices. That doesn't seem like something that would like be a tailwind for you, but it is, because it's kind of getting us to like clean up some stuff. We'll find some things that are like, oh, no, we need to, reduce that there. So it's positive. Anthony Hempstead was here a few weeks ago talking about a recap of the state legislature. We will be bringing you all more information we anticipate later this summer or the fall about the potential revenue that could come from the councilmanic sales tax, should the council choose to implement that. So if the council chose to do so, that would be a positive revenue stream. And then that fee and rate update we're doing across the board is helpful. We are finishing up a marina rate study and anticipate having some changes there. We're going to talk to the tenants at the marina in July, so we're going to talk to them first. But that's positive, right? Really taking a look at our rates to make sure they're in line with market, allow us to work on capital projects faster, which does improve their experience. That's just one example I wanted to mention. And then really we have woven fiscal responsibility into everything we do. When new employees are hired, they are talked to about this. You all have seen some of the internal organizational work we've done on our anchored in excellence model, but fiscal responsibility and fiscal awareness is like one of the 4 main things every employee is really expected to look at. So as I wind up and turn it over to Jeff, a couple things to put on your horizon. I feel like we're actually starting to get some good momentum building on these kind of internal efficiencies. So, we have merged some Parks and Rec functions to become community enrichment services. We're starting to see some of that, but I mean, that'll be a process to merge those. That's just one example, but there's some kind of things we've implemented in the organization that maybe aren't super exciting or super evident to the public, but we're starting to see some positive things coming from there. We're really looking forward to the results of the long-range financial plan, which I referenced in the strategic plan presentation. That's the work FCS is doing. Again, we talked about the strategic plan already, but I also want to make sure that we are really aware of where we continue to have some significant needs, where we are unable to meet community expectations because we don't have the resources we'd like. Public safety staffing. Several of you have talked to me about Parks and Rec and like what can we do to enhance that area. That is an area that is really resource constrained right now. And then economic development. We really need to focus some resources there. So we will be bringing back information about 2026 in the coming months and whether or not we want to make any adjustments. So I'm going to turn it over to Jeff to kind of go through the numbers for the first quarter, and then we're happy to answer questions. Yeah. You did so good on that too.
I don't see any sailboats in on, though.
So like the explanation for the colors in the last report would be a similar situation here. Now where it lands in the green and the yellow, that's a little subjective. But we'll start talking about the general fund. The general fund, of course, is where general taxes come in, like sales tax, utility tax, property tax, and pay for the city's general operations like public safety, police, public works, parks, and city managers. So through the first quarter, total revenue was over budget by 2%, about $126,000, which is encouraging because I like to see revenue high. But it should be noted that a portion of this, about $77,000, was unbudgeted grant funds for the body cam refresh program that the police, is a grant that the police got. So that was not on our radar, but $77,000 was, came in for that. General fund revenue. So here's the details, and of course we've got the green and the yellow over there. Everything's green, so I just love that so much. So taxes are pretty spot on year to date for the budget with that 0% over under budget. Licenses and permits, intergovernmental, all the categories are pretty much green. But I would caution on the one time I mentioned that There was that grant revenue that, for the body cams, but also a concern in the one-time revenue is the one-time sales tax and B&O tax. Because I'd mentioned the two projects last year wound down. There's new ones out there. They're not through the process. So we really, through the first quarter, only received $5,000 of one-time sales tax, which is much less than budget. So that's a concern that we have, and the concern that we have this year is budgeting revenue is not the same as seeing that revenue show up. So we're relying on that in the budget, and hopefully those projects get further through the process and we start seeing some of that one-time revenue come in. General fund expenditures, we're kind of high yellowish. Total expenditures are about $120,000, which again, 2% over budget through the first quarter. If we look at the details here, we've got personnel is 6% over budget. Services is 10% under budget. Then internal services and transfers out, those are pretty much on target. And then, of course, supplies are 45% over budget by $65,000. But as if you recall, I mentioned the $77,000 for the body cams. Well, that paid for $77,000 of unbudgeted expenses. So really, that accounts for why supplies is over budget. We can do a budget amendment, but basically, aside from the $77,000 that was paid for by the state, we would have been under budget on supplies. Next slide, revenue. We just wanted to show how much the one-time revenue and expenditures really can make up of our overall revenue and expenditures. So this pie chart shows the non-recurring one-time revenue is 2.3% of our overall revenue. So the recurring everyday, day-to-day revenue is 97.7%. And expenditures is pretty much the same. 3.3% consists of one-time expenditures, while day-to-day operations is 96.7%. General fund operating reserves. So this shows really what our cash situation is with our operating reserves. At the end of the first quarter, we dropped down to 10.8% of our annual expenditures. The threshold, of course, is 16.67%, and then 25% and higher, that would be when I start sleeping through the night. So that's, we're not worried about making payroll, every 6 months or so. That's kind of optimal if it's up there. And you can see the operating reserves is about $2.5 million. The threshold is at 3.9. So again, it's the same $1.4 million gap that we saw at the end of 2024, kind of holding steady through the first quarter of 2025. Development fund, operating income for the development fund was about $300,000 through the first quarter, which was about $252,000 more than expected. I believe that there were a lot of fees, development fees paid related to the big projects that we know are out there that are $15 million or more. The marina operating income. So this, when I say operating income, that's the income from their daily operations. It doesn't include them paying debt or doing capital work, but just their day-to-day operations. Is $392,000, which is 169% over budget through the first quarter. So lots of green on that gauge. And swim, they had an operating loss of $615,000, which is 47% over budget through the first quarter. I don't know if that means over budget means. Well, it's $615,000 in the wrong direction. But you have to remember that they get their stormwater management fees through property tax. And so that's how people pay those fees. So that revenue shows up in April and October. So having an operating loss through March really isn't surprising. So it's to be expected. Capital projects. Flag Triangle was completed. Redondo Pier is out to bid. Marina Steps, we've applied for a King County grant. We should know about that, I believe, in early August. And the field house slide is open. Questions?
Councilmember Harris.
Yeah, thank you. Let's see here. Somewhere in there, it says there's a $690,000 land sale. I assume that means the Des Moines Creek West has closed?
That's correct.
Okay, so the check is here, so it's just done, and,
We haven't, no, it's not, that line, we budgeted for that, but we don't expect that for a couple of weeks. So when you see the second quarter report, you'll see that as a year-to-date budget item and that we've received it.
okay, I'm just trying to get my mind around cash versus cash accounting, and it's not exactly the same as the donut shop with the cash register, but that sale is happening.
Yes.
For sure. Okay, I always just nag about it, but when we find out about electricity, I always nag about it, because do they give you a breakdown by type of, like, commercial or residential or anything like that?
Yeah, I looked at that today. We get they fill out a tax form for us, that's a city form, and it's broken down between electrical, and I forgot I can get back to you on what the second category is.
I'm just thinking of it in terms of, I talk about, this is fuel, and as the gas goes down, the power charging goes up, and I'm just wondering how we capture that kind of stuff. And just speaking more, I like all of the pictures and everything. I don't know if you really stress month to month over these things, because the payments do come in. It might be good if there was sort of a little indicator that just says, this is short this month, but the taxes are coming in next month. Do you understand what I mean?
Kind of.
I worry when you're worried about, like, a particular fund will be, showing a loss on a particular month, but then the checks come in the next month from the county, and then it's like, happy days, and I don't think of it that way.
Yeah, what I would say about that is, in the past, when we have that column that says year-to-date budget, that used to be only divided by 12, or whatever, so if it was for the first quarter, it would just be 3/12 of the year. But we've put a lot of work into having that reflect what our actual expectations are. So if you look at the property tax line, you'll see the year-to-date budget says like $200-some thousand. Because I frankly got tired of saying, we don't have property tax this quarter, that comes in next quarter, but now you can see we expected $200-some thousand by March. We received close to that, and then it'll adjust through the historical pattern. So like you mentioned, the sale for $690,000, the adopted budget was that, but when you look at the line, you'll see the year-to-date budget says 0, because we didn't expect, our expectation was that wasn't happening by March 31st. But in the second quarter, you should, unless it happens in the third quarter, but the quarter it occurs in, we'll adjust that expectation and say, we expected that, this is happening.
Yeah.
So I think you can rely on the year-to-date budget column more so than you have in the past.
The speedometer thing
Yeah.
stresses me out a little bit, and just because it's, and just sort of speed round, I often just, the development fund, it does a lot of work. And I wish there was a way, not to micromanage, but basically to just express that it does cover a lot of ground. Ultimately, at the end of the day, we got to make more money, and I don't want to be talking about each little thing. Last but not least, I do think the interfund transfers are an opaque thing for most residents, also because the departmental practices have changed over the years, and people don't have a clear understanding of how internal costs get oh yeah, I lied. We often have this one big graph of the all funds thing, which is like 75 million or what have you, and 76. But then there's also, there'll be another graph that'll be like the general fund thing, and it somehow if there was a way to overlay the one on top of the other, because we so often throw around the, like, our budget is 26 million. And then we go, well, no, it's really this 76 thing. And if there was a way to sort of tell one story like that, and I think I'm done. Thank you.
Councilmember Oxiger, Councilmember Nutting, do you have any questions?
No, Mayor, but I would like to thank Jeff for a highly informative and easy to understand presentation.
Yeah, thank you.
Deputy Mayor Steinmetz.
Yeah, Jeff, thank you. I agree with Councilmember Oxinger. This was much clearer and much easier to understand. But I do recall from earlier times when we've worked through these that the first quarter is always sort of the most, shall we say, askew or off budget one way or another because of the revenues or the expenditures in one quarter haven't been collected yet. Is that?
Yeah, and again, that's why we went back to revise how we present that year-to-date budget column, because it can be misleading to say, at March, we were expecting, $2 million of property tax and we collected 200,000. So that's not informative. And so we did go in to make adjustments like that. For example, organizational memberships, they're paid once a year. So to allocate that out evenly across the year is misleading when we can capture all of that in the first quarter when they're made. So we did try to look at all of we didn't capture everything, but we're trying to do a better job to say, this is really where we're at, and this is where, according to our expectations in the budget.
And was there anything, I didn't see any red in the speedometers. And is there anything that you don't expect is going to balance out over the course of the year? I didn't get that impression, but I just want to double check that.
I would just state, I think our main concern, and I expressed this to Catherine, the top two concerns, the main one would be areas where revenue is over budgeted. And so, like I said, one-time sales tax. And that's why we're working hard on compliance with the square footage tax. I mean, we're working with legal, sending out letters to get people to comply and to report. So that would be the main concern. The second concern, cost control. But that really, there's a big gap between those two concerns. I think we're doing good at controlling our costs, but it's really what areas did we budget revenue that we're relying on that's not going to be there. So that's why we're paying a lot of close attention to the revenue side.
And you were prescient about my next question, which is about that warehouse tax, the square footage tax. There's an expense to collecting that tax, correct? And we don't necessarily have that budgeted in our staff, do we? I don't recall that we were hiring tax collectors or anything that sort of fit that label. And if we're having to spend more time doing that than was expected, how is that going to be accounted for?
Well, a portion, so we're working with legal, so Matt Hutchins is helping us. And then we have a business license B&O tax person on staff, that's their job. And then thirdly, we do have a consultant we've worked with. We have a new contract with her. The contract is for $40,000 for Diane Marcotte, who's worked with us for the last few years. She's already paid for that contract because we had one business get caught up on their taxes to the tune of $38,000. So, I mean, we did spend money, but we're spending it hoping to collect much more than we've spent. So
the outlay should be really balanced out.
Yes.
Or outweighed by the collection. Okay.
Hopefully outweighed. That's my goal.
All right. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Harris.
This is sort of a semi-apology for the last, but I have asked you to do a number of things that are not strictly accounting because you wear a lot of hats. But the thing I would most like to see, which is not on these reports, is organizational stress. The public, the deal is, so, you know, we don't pass a property tax thing, or things go south or whatever, and the public does not seem to feel huge differences in service. And obviously, you know, and you can say we're doing more with less and all of that other jazz and efficiencies and all that stuff, but the documents don't convey that this does something to the organization. And we talk rhetorically about it being unsustainable, but the public is like, well, doesn't look unsustainable to me. You know, the trash gets picked up, the cops show up, services happen. If there were, I don't know how to do it, but somehow there needs to be a way to convey numerically that capacity beyond just the spending and the, because it's an irony to say that we're becoming more efficient, because everybody will just say, great, but it doesn't convey what the needs are and you know, what should happen in terms of the strategic plan and all of that stuff. And I don't know how to do it, but I'm just saying if there was a speedometer graph or something like that, you know, anyway, just something to think about. Thank you.
Okay. Well, I think just to tag on to that last comment, I think that we here at the dais and even, you know, at the remote dais do have a little bit of a responsibility to help communicate that onto the public. And I think a lot of times we don't even understand the power of our words, whether in writing or in public or just chit-chatting at a local restaurant. And so I think we can have a big influence on the heartbeat of this community and how they feel about our government and how well or not the staff is working. If we are continually critical of it, and that's how the community's going to feel. If we're continually positive, that's how the community's going to feel. So my compliments, great. I took some notes, even some timestamps. I think several of these slides or combinations of these slides are going to be fantastic for us, you know, a kind of a reorg of our state of the city next year. Really great information. My compliments to all the innovative ways that we're using our new logo. I appreciate all of the visuals. And I think you're Jeff, not sure. I always enjoy your presentations, the little, you know, bits of dry humor. I appreciate how you incorporate it into the slides, but most of all, the hard work that goes in. I mean, I appreciate the humor there, but there's a lot of hard work that has gone into not only getting this work done, but figuring out effective ways of communicating it. This was well done, and I know it's a team effort here. So thank you for these visuals. I think the community is going to appreciate several of these moving forward. Thank you.
Okay, our last item, and I know it's been a long city manager report, but I warned you. Mike Quispond from our transportation engineering is coming up to go briefly through the Des Moines commute trip reduction plan.
Are you making them wear suits or something? Because we're gonna have to up our game.
I know, he's very snazzy tonight.
Yeah.
Manager and council members, Mike Quispond, Public Works. So tonight I just want to give an update on the commute trip reduction 4-year plan that we've been working with the state and some of the jurisdictions nearby. So basically back in 1991, the state passed a commute trip reduction law requiring employers to work with employees to reduce drive-alone commutes to work. And so the CTR plan basically requires jurisdiction to develop new CTR plan and establish program goals and targets for their urban growth areas. And that 4-year plan needs to be adopted by council. And also the CTR program works with major employers to encourage employees to commute to work without driving alone. And in the state of Washington, we have more than 1,000 work sites that have access to the CTR program. And so basically affected work sites are public or private entities with 100 employees or more and who start work between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. And in Des Moines here, we have 4 CTR affected sites. So basically City Hall, Island College, Wesley Homes, and FAA. But recently we learned that Wesley Home went below the 100 employees who work between 6 a.m. and 9 a.m. And so the intent of the CTR plan itself is basically helps jurisdiction achieve broader transportation and land use goals. Like for example, in transportation, the CTR plan also helps with the city capacity when it comes to drive alone to work. And also the CTR plan help jurisdiction develop services, regulation policies, and program that support the trip reduction investment of major employers, and also integrate data and plans from major employers and transit agencies. So what we've done surveys. We closed the survey, I think, 2 weeks ago, 1 week ago. So we have to go through all the survey data, and those data needs to go to the state as well. And also, so basically the outcome of the whole 4-year plan that the state wants is, one is to improve delivery of the CTR plan. In the past, there was few gaps in how the CTR plan was delivered. Now the states provided a tool that basically we all the survey are done through the state website, and it's actually very good. We can get reports, we can do staff reports through that tool that the state provided, and also expand CTR markets to address equity. So last year, we actually reached out to vulnerable populations in Des Moines. We had flyers in different languages that we posted around the city, and also produce more useful transportation behavior data. In the past, it was hard to track and understand how transportation behavior used to be, and also expand investment and services to advance equity and environmental justice, and also respond to shifting mobility. So basically increasing more commute through transit, through taking buses, walking, using a bicycle, and basically reducing that drive alone to work. And eventually, the ultimate goal of the CTR plan is to reduce gas emission eventually. I think that concludes my presentation on the CTR. I think you have the full 4-year plan, and if you have any questions.
Deputy Mayor Steinmetz.
First, I just want to say you're looking really good, and I appreciate it. Secondly, is you mentioned that Wesley Homes has dropped below that threshold of 100 employees between the hours of 6 and 9. Is that correct?
Yeah.
What is the impact of that? Are they not affected? They don't have to comply with something?
So we asked the state what they have to do, but it looks like since they were over 100, it's just that this year they are under 100, so which means that every year that number can change, but they are still required to do the survey, do the staff report, and participate in the CTR program that we have here. Yeah.
But it wasn't due to them just changing their shifts to get out of that time period?
I'm not sure I know. I don't think I know exactly why they dropped, but just they have employees who work at night shift now, and then some to start like swing shift, so it's hard to just understand exactly why the 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. They're not getting 100 employees anymore.
Okay. And then lastly, the data that you're collecting, and I understand you're just starting to go through it, but will that be able to have some impact on getting the east-west routes of public transportation that are needed here in Des Moines that don't exist? Can it be used for that purpose, or is it more isolated than
Yeah,
that?
so once we do the survey, we'll provide, as I was kind of reading through some of the surveys, some people needed more bus routes, for example. So we'll make a staff report and basically a city report, and we'll provide those to King County. And I'm not sure if they have all the resources to provide all the routes, but at least we'll do our part and in providing all the data that we have.
Great. Thank you very much.
Councilmember Oxiger, Councilmember Nutting, any questions? Okay, all right, any other questions?
No, Mayor, thank you.
Right. Councilmember Mahoney.
So I commute to Seattle, and we participate in CTR. One of the ways that they've done it is they subsidize my Orca Pass, so I pay a portion and they actually pay much more of it. The other one is they're allowing us to work from home on a couple days a week and so forth. In the city, what are we doing as far as actions to be able to affect this, to help the employees? Are we doing some of those similar things?
Yes, so we receive, I believe, somewhere around $30,000 from the state as a grant, a CTR grant. And as part of that, we have to do to give out incentives to help our staff to basically take trains or buses. So in those funds, we are allowed to give out Orca card, but we are very limited on the amount because it's basically, I would say, less than $15,000 that we can use. And I don't know how. I think we'll have to work with Jeff to understand how much we can spend and how many Orca card we can provide to. And it's not going to just be Des Moines City Hall employees, but it will have to be all those affected work site as well.
Well, any other questions? Mike, thank you so much. Ditto what Harry said, and I just want to thank you for being here. You know, I requested this presentation really at a deference to the passion that was expressed by the council wanting, especially with regard to an ordinance. So this is going to be an ordinance. We haven't implemented our protocol manual yet with the 1.5 touch rule, I guess I would call it. And so just seeing this coming down on consent, I know that you're normally not here on a Thursday, so I really just appreciate you coming down and talking to us about this, and thank you. And so impressed with the work. I mean, it was nice to hear the presentation. It's like, wow, that was a lot of work. So thank you.
Well, I'd also like to thank Laura Hopp, who is Mike's partner in crime on that program and collecting a lot of data. So she also played a big role in that.
Thank you, Laura.
So thank you, Mike. So that concludes our report. Sorry it is 7:45, but we've now concluded the city manager report.
Good job. All right, well, next up, would the city clerk please read the consent agenda?
Item 1, approval of vouchers. Item 2, approval of minutes. Item 3, annual generator maintenance agreement. Item 4, draft resolution 25-032, updating public works contracting policies. Item 5, state parks grant agreement for funding of annual operating and maintenance of the new pump-out equipment. Item 6, Des Moines commute trip reduction plan, and that concludes the consent agenda, Mayor.
Thank you so much. I have a motion. Deputy Mayor Steinmetz.
Yes, I move to adopt the consent agenda as read.
Do I have a second? Councilmember Nutting for the second. Is there an item that a council member wishes to pull? All right. All in favor, raise your right hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7-0. Thank you so much. All passes. All right. Oh, my gosh. You show up twice on our screen, Councilmember Oxiger, so it looks like it was 8-0. All right. So next up, we have a public hearing. This is in regard to our transportation improvement plan. The purpose of the public hearing is to provide an update and for the council to consider the adoption of the transportation improvement plan. I will now open the public hearing. We will begin with a staff presentation from City Engineer Tommy Owen.
Yeah, good evening. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Tommy Owen, City Engineer. So tonight I will be giving the public hearing for the Transportation Improvement Plan. So what is the Transportation Improvement Plan? And I'll refer to it as the TIP throughout. But it's really a prioritized list of 88 planned transportation projects, which is not financially constrained. So as I've said before, it's really kind of transportation's wish list of projects for the next 20 years or so. It's derived from the Comprehensive Transportation Plan, also called the CTP, which is a long-range transportation plan for 20 years as well, which sets the policies, goals, and strategies to help guide decisions for existing and future transportation systems for all modes of travel within the city. The CTP defines the manageable network of arterial roadways, pedestrian networks, bicycle networks, and transit service priorities to support the city. So projects in the TIP mainly come from that comprehensive transportation plan. These projects are for safety, capacity, pedestrian, and bicycle needs, and they also support transit. We also get projects from just general analysis of the city's transportation system. This is through traffic engineering studies and also citizen input and concerns, which we deal with basically on a day-to-day basis. We'll get concerns and we'll go out there and do a study. There is the potential for those types of projects to end up in the TIP. It's also from interagency and utility coordination. We work with our partners, CTAC, Sound Transit, WashDOT. All of our partners, they also have projects that impact the city. So we make sure that those projects are incorporated into the city's TIP. The TIP is used to provide direction of staff for the development of the 6-year capital improvement plan, the CIP. It's also to project planning and coordination with our utilities and neighboring cities. As I mentioned before, we partner with our utilities and neighboring cities as much as possible, so we want to make sure that those projects are in the TIP so that we can work with those other jurisdictions. It's required by state law to submit the TIP on an annual basis. We report it to WashDOT and the Puget Sound Regional Council. It also positions projects for future grants and loans. So whenever we go out to try and get a grant or a loan, the projects are typically required to be in the city's TIP. So the process for the TIP, I presented the draft of the TIP to the Committee of the Whole back on June 5th. And since then, we've noticed the public hearing in the Seattle Times on both June 12th and June 19th. There is the opportunity for public comment at the hearing tonight. And to date, I have not received any public comments via email or phone. So looking back at the TIP and some of the accomplishments and highlights over the last year or so. So priority 1 is the pavement preservation program. As you should know that we've done a significant overlay over the last year or so. It's on 16th Avenue, 272nd, 281st, down into Redondo Beach Drive, as well as 4th Place. So that actually wrapped up this year with some adjustment of some guardrail, but that project is complete. And then I've mentioned before, we're looking at a potential partnership with Midway Sewer District for the overlay on 16th Avenue from about 240th to 250th Street. Priority 4, the 24th Avenue Improvements Project, we're getting there. So it's, there's curb, gutter, and sidewalk for the most part on the east side of the roadway out there. So the contractor will be shifting over to start doing work on the west side here shortly. So there will be some shifts in traffic in the flow out there, but we're hopeful that that project will, basically, we're trying to get it paved before school starts in the fall. That's the goal. Priority 5, the Sound Transit Link Light Rail. Construction for that is complete. We're just closing out some items. Basically the same thing, especially for the 216th Street Bridge with WashDOT on their Gateway project. Most of the work within the city is complete on that one. A few more accomplishments. Priority 9, the Neighborhood Traffic Calming Program. As we presented a couple months ago, we've implemented a formal program, and we're looking at doing some speed humps throughout the city. That should be constructed likely this fall. Priority 14, College Way, is complete. And then there's a few projects under design. We have the Barnes Creek Trail South segment. That is, I would say, almost 100% complete for the design portion of that. And we'll be going out to bid likely within the next month for that project. The 240th Street improvements, that's also combined with the Barnes Creek Trail. And then we have the 200th and 199th Street improvements up in North Hill. Those improvements will be constructed likely, I would say, starting spring of next year. So some of the TIP proposed revisions for this year. We have priority 7, the Barnes Creek Trail South segment. And this is that project that I just mentioned, but really it's just to revise the project limits and description to remove a portion of the trail that's already been completed on 16th Avenue. Priority 9 is the Neighborhood Traffic Calming Program. We've taken this from priority 32 to 9 to highlight the importance of the new formal program. Priority 11 is the 200th Street, 199th Street improvements. We've revised the description just to let everybody know that the project is also kind of known as the North Hill Elementary Walkway Improvements Project. And we did receive funding from the state as a Safe Routes to School grant for that project. I'm going to jump to priority 15 because the other ones are coming off, but 15 is the 223rd Street, Cliff Avenue Street improvements. So we revised the project limits on that to expand the project, basically looking for potential grant opportunities. But we've expanded that to the Beach Park and Marina Entrance and Marine View Drive, so just a larger corridor. These other projects, College Way, 220th and 221st, those will come off the TIP as they've been completed by Sound Transit. So that concludes my presentation, and I've given the suggested motion.
Thank you. It's now time for the public comment portion of the public hearing. So please keep your comments respectful and understand that anyone speaking or acting in a disruptive manner will be removed from the meeting. Please state your name and city of residence. If you come to the podium, you'll have 3 minutes to speak. Did we get anybody signed up for tonight? So is there anyone who did not sign up to speak who wishes to speak? I'm making that my second announcement. And for the third time, is there anyone who didn't sign up to speak who wishes to speak? All right. Now it's time for council questions. Please refrain from comments or stories during your questions. Any questions? Deputy Mayor Steinmetz.
Yeah, just a couple of questions. There are two hot spots. The 223rd and 222nd, you've expanded that project out a little bit. Is that going to affect some of the noise issues in the neighborhood that have been complained about?
You're talking about the Cliff Avenue?
Beach Park at Cliff Avenue, yeah.
This is, the expansion of the limits on that is really to just looking at grant opportunities for the whole corridor, potentially federal money. And it really ties back to the work that we've done for the complete streets on that project. And I think we've had grants for the design of that as well. And it's about a 10% design. So we're just looking at ways to bring in more money to keep that project moving forward.
Okay. And is there any way to address the drop off from 222 down the hill towards Cliff Avenue and that sharp turn.
Yeah, that's all stuff we'll be looking at as we kind of further develop the plans for that.
Okay. And in the traffic calming element, is Redondo being considered as well as other places?
Yeah, so the neighborhood traffic calming program is really looking at streets that aren't arterials. So Redondo Beach Drive is an arterial, so it's not really part of that program. We're looking for potential locations within neighborhoods, and that's really what that program's for.
For those citizens that are hoping for more speed bumps or something to slow traffic down even further, where would they look?
They can contact staff, and I mean, we'll continue to look into it, just like whether they submit a request for a neighborhood road or an arterial, we're still gonna look at it.
All right.
See what options we have.
Thank you.
Councilmember Harris?
Yeah, thank you, Tommy, as always. And I'm not trying to blindside you, but this is my annual thing on 240th. As that one segment closes out, and there's probably going to be some activity on Marine View Drive at that corner. Where does that segment, 240th, with the school going down to Marine View Drive, where does that fit into the timeline? Is there any chance to move that forward?
Yeah, so I think looking at future grant opportunities, I see the corridor on 240th from 16th to the west as a potential location for a Safe Routes to School grant. I think that would be, there's some potential there for a grant to be, I think that we'd have a good chance of getting a grant from the state for that. So that's something that we'll look into. Otherwise, as of right now, I don't know where it's at specifically on the TIP, but it's still, I think we're gonna be focusing on the construction of the Barnes Creek Trail on 240th while we kind of look at the future with grant opportunities and try and line up money to look at that segment in the future.
I get it. It's just, you see the parents, and you have this sidewalk on one side, and, and that's always been, people would tell me, this is the transit route and so forth, and so I just have to ask about it every year.
And I think as you kind of implied, there potential development to the west, they would potentially pay in lieu fees or impact fees, and that money could be put into that corridor as well. So that's always a way that we look at money to be used as like matches for grants, and it just makes the grant more competitive.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much, sir.
Councilmember Oxiger and Councilmember Nutting, do you have any questions? No, you're good, okay.
I do.
All right, Councilmember Oxiger.
So where are we at on 240th as far as priority for completing the entire length of 240th?
Yeah, I think there's at least 4 segments on 240th, just off the top of my head, I'm thinking. And so, I mean, they're grouped all over within the TIP. I think the next priority is the section to the west of 16th. There's also a section across from Highline College, as well as there's another section of 240th west of Pack Highway, which is within the city of Kent. And so we need to partner with Kent to see any improvements in that location as well.
And are those improvements, targeted towards drawing people to the college light rail? There are 2 of me. To the and I'm going in 2 different directions. Yeah, I mean, is that the main target? Is getting people to the light rail station at the college station?
Yeah, definitely, and I think that's another a good point when it comes to grant opportunities. That's just another thing that we can put in the application to show that we're trying to bring people from east or west to east through that corridor to the light rail station there. And we've received, I want to say, trying to remember, I think it was $1 million from Sound Transit for the Barnes Creek Trail segment that's under design right now. So they understand that that's an important corridor.
Thank you very much.
Right. Any further questions? Okay, I will now close the public hearing. Do I have a motion?
You do, Mayor.
Councilmember Mahoney.
I move to approve draft resolution number 25-069, adopting the 2026 to 2045 Transportation Improvement Plan for the city of Des Moines.
I have a second. I'm going to call it to Councilmember Grace Matsui. She doesn't get very many of those. So we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Councilmember Mahoney.
So I've been heavily involved in this for my entire tenure here as council member, and my compliments to the staff, those here today and those in the past. I think this is a comprehensive list of all the projects in town. I mean, I'm not saying there isn't any more, there's a few come up here and there, but it's there to get the grants. It's there, it's achievable. I think the cost, at least even in the estimation, even long range, are in the pocket, not pie in the sky or undervalued or something like that. And I just want to commend the strong work on this. Every year I get to be pretty, sounds kind of wrong, but intimate with it. And so that's why I know, like 240, Gene asked the question, it's in there. If you add the Barnes Creek Trail section, there's 3 components in the TIP that's got that process. And all of these things, they can't be done all the way. Obviously, a couple things that the public should know is that getting them on and getting the grants important. This is why, like 200th or 24th or something, we were able to use Safe Routes to School money and some of those kind of things that the state and the county and so forth are more inclined to approve rather than what might be a neighborhood street where they need something, or everybody wants curbs and sidewalks. And if you knew the cost of those kind of things, you just need to understand that they're impossible. But my compliments, that's why I always like to kind of level reset with the public, that a lot of things are on the list, but if we were to total up the dollars that need to be done, it is hundreds of millions of dollars. And there isn't the money to do it. So what you do is you take it at a chunk at a time, and certain things become priority and others have to take a back seat. I think the staff has done an excellent job of always shifting those. And as he gave the presentation today, there was a lot of accomplishments. Here we are struggling to find funding and all these kinds of other things, and that crew has worked diligently to find the money, and we're getting stuff done in tough times. And that is not championed enough by us or the community. They don't understand what goes into it. So my final thought is, hats off to you guys for the great work, and thanks for setting us up for a better future.
Thank you. Any other comments? Well, my comment, ditto. I'm so impressed. And in regard to, like, for example, the state Safe Routes to School, every time we get a project done, it bodes well for the next grant. It's like, oh, these guys get their stuff done. We're going to give it to them, So I love it that we're getting these things done. It prophesies a good future about being able to gain grants for our future projects like Safe Routes. So thank you. I love driving over the new streets. So appreciate the work. All right. Looks like there's no other discussion. I'm going to take it to a vote. All in favor, raise your right hand. 8-0. I'm just kidding. 7 passes unanimously. All right. Thank you. Okay, next up, we have a new business item. We're going to talk about our Citizens Advisory Board appointments. The purpose of this item is to recommend to council the approval of the mayoral appointments to the newly reorganized Citizens Advisory Board. And we have a presentation kind of a team presentation here and some slides. I'm going to hand it over to the city manager and the deputy mayor.
Great. You're looking at me.
I didn't know it was part of the presentation.
Oh, well.
Go for it.
So this is brief. First, I want to say Tara Vaughn from the legal department is the official staff liaison to this group. So she was at the meeting in May. She had a pre-scheduled vacation, so she was not there last night, but a big thank you to Bonnie Wilkins for stepping in and serving as substitute liaison yesterday. You all have received a lot of updates from me on this, so I'm not going to go into all the details of how we got here, but in your packet is the list of names of appointments. So what we have here is everyone that was previously on any of those committees we combined. So Senior Services, Arts, Human Services, Citizen Advisory Committee, any of those people that wanted to apply are on here. Additionally, I think they themselves shared the application with others, even though we did not really advertise it at large, and we received 4 additional applications. So we have slated those 2 people in where there were vacancies. And then, as you all see in your packet, there are 2 that can, one person, if the council wants to, can be the Redondo rep, and another one at large, or vice versa. So we have, there's a couple of motions. And so let me stop there. Are there any questions about what you have before you? There are still a couple of vacancies for Marina Tenant, Pack Ridge Neighborhood. I think those are the only ones. And so we will begin advertising. And okay, thank you, North Central. And so we will begin advertising for those appointments. So we may bring you a few more in the future.
Any questions or any comments by, if you want to add to that, Deputy Mayor, anything at all?
No.
Okay, so any questions before the motion? Councilmember Harris?
I watched the meeting and there was something discussed about staggered terms. Could you provide any kind of specifics on how that's going to work?
Sure. So because this is a new group, all of the sort of existing terms, went away because this is the new list. And so at the meeting we had in April and in May, we talked with the group about how we don't want to have a whole new slate of people who have a 4-year term and they all leave at the same time. So what we as a group talked about doing is sort of having them draw straws or names out of a hat, but half of them will get 2-year terms, half will get 4-year terms. But the intent is that they all have, as they get going, 4-year terms. But we just didn't want the whole group leaving at the same time, if that makes sense.
Okay. Right, any other questions? Councilmember Nutting and Councilmember Oxiger, either one of you have any questions? No, okay. Councilmember Grace Matsui.
Thank you. I appreciate the information about the new updated cab. And I also wanted to say thanks to my colleagues here at the dais for allowing us to have the flexibility of folks who were on those other committees apply to this one. And I can see some members here that have applied to transfer over from things like Senior Services and folks who have been committed volunteers in the past. And so I appreciate that they were given the opportunity. Thank you.
Great. All right.
Okay, so I'll let Deputy Mayor Steinmetz kind of, if you want to
Begin with the motions.
the first
Yes.
motion.
Motion number 1. I move to confirm mayoral appointments as shown on Exhibit A to the Citizens Advisory Board, effective immediately with an expiration date to be determined.
Second, Councilmember Grace Matsui for the second. Any discussion? Councilmember Harris.
I will not be supporting these appointments. I want to just stress, 2-3 times, it has nothing to do with the individuals. I know most of the people on the cab, and they are all fine and highly qualified. I struggle to find any committee like this. I've been to over 1,000 public meetings. I mean, God, that's not a brag, that's sad.
Councilmember Harris, are you
The
addressing
point I'm
that?
trying to
No,
make, ma'am,
I
is
am
that
making a point of order to you. I'm asking you to stick to the
This-
subject and not a comment on a decision that the council has already made. The committee is intact.
I will not be supporting these because this structure does not thrill me. And there you go.
Thank you. Any other discussion to the motion? All right, all in favor, raise your right hand. Councilmember Nutting, Councilmember Oxiger, Councilmember Grace Matsui, Councilmember Mahoney, Councilmember Steinmetz, Deputy Mayor Steinmetz, and myself. All opposed? Councilmember Harris. Motion passes 6-1. Deputy Mayor Steinmetz for the next motion.
Yes, motion two. I move to confirm Lisa Franz to the Citizens Advisory Board as a Redondo Neighborhood Representative effective immediately with an expiration date to be determined.
I have a second. Councilmember Mahoney for the second. Any discussion? All right. And with no discussion, all in favor, raise your right hand. Councilmember Nutting, Councilmember Oxiger, Councilmember Grace Matsui, Councilmember Mahoney, Deputy Mayor Steinmetz, and myself all opposed. Councilmember Harris opposed. Motion passes 6-1. Next motion.
And motion three, I move to confirm Susan White to the Citizens Advisory Board as an at-large member effective immediately with an expiration date to be determined.
I have a second. A second, Councilmember Grace Matsui. Any discussion? Councilmember Mahoney.
I will not be supporting this recommendation. Communication is a huge piece of this job, and over the last few years, I have seen poor communication by this particular person, not factual in some cases, and I have serious concerns, especially for a former council member that should know facts better than they do.
Anyone else? Any other comments? Councilmember Nutting.
I agree with Councilmember Mahoney. I will not be supporting this.
Right. Any other comments? No further discussion. All in favor, raise your right hand. Councilmember Oxiger, Councilmember Grace Matsui, Deputy Mayor Steinmetz, and myself, all opposed. Councilmember Nutting, Councilmember Harris, and Councilmember Mahoney. Motion passes 4-3. Okay. And I believe that is the end of this piece of new business. There are no further motions with this, right? Those are all the ones. All right, well, congratulations to all of our Citizens Advisory Board participants and appointees. I think we're going to get some good work done with these committees and subcommittees. I'm excited to see what will come out, the work that will come out of it, and I'm excited for the participants to be able to really get some boots on the ground, hands-on work done inside of the community. I'm excited about it. All right, next up is an opportunity for a new agenda item, for new agenda items for consideration. This is the time for the purpose of proposing new business items for discussion on future agendas. These would be items that have not previously been before the council, and it's not a time for council action or questions about old business. Council members can submit questions or seek updates on previously discussed business to the city manager at any time. Do any council members have new business they would like to propose? All right, moving on then to council member reports, and we're going to begin tonight with Councilmember Mahoney.
Thank you, Mayor. I've only, obviously, the rain last Saturday was a little bit of a bummer. Saw our city manager at the farmer's market, a little less attended, and the Waterland Pride Festival, I'll leave to other people to describe, but it was awesome to see that in the alleyway, you know, backstage alley, as we like to call it. So that was some great positive events. I want to remind people that obviously have a safe 4th of July, because we won't have a meeting till then. Fireworks are illegal in the city. Unfortunately, Normandy Park has not felt the same way. We wish they would, so that'll be a problem. But we're going to have a great drone show. But the one that I'm most passionate about, and unfortunately will not be able to attend, is the Shark in the Park down in at Wooten Park down in Redondo. Being that we are the 6th guild capital of the world, shark capital of the world, I'm excited what this will be, and I'm looking forward to the photos and so forth. I know the mayor's gonna be there to read a proclamation, the city manager's there, and so forth. This is a great thing. There are recently going to come out on news channels and on publications a lot of educational awareness over the next week or two on the six-gill shark. It's a fascinating creature. I don't know if maybe Scott has seen them before, but I have seen them, and they're incredible to see in their natural habitat. And so pay attention. I think it's going to be really cool, and it's already starting off with a bang. And next year, I'll probably come to the pulpit and try to lobby for changing 6th Avenue to 6-Gill Avenue. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. Councilmember Grace Matsui.
Thank you. Yes, there was quite a packed weekend last weekend all across Des Moines, and it was very exciting to see all of the energy and folks coming together, most of which was home produced, things that our residents and our citizens are really excited about and put their own energy and time and passion into. I was only able to attend a couple of those things since I was mostly volunteering and helping out at our Pride Fest that Councilmember Mahoney spoke about down at the Des Moines Theater. And I want to say thanks so much to not only the volunteers and the leadership structure for Pride Fest, but how much it has been embraced by the Des Moines Theater and tenant businesses there. We had some excellent sponsors, some co-programming that happened among them. And it's just been something that continues to grow, and I'm very excited to see how it will progress next year. And so thanks to them. And I hope that folks come out and see the rest of the community outreach that the city is doing at the farmers market. My understanding is that we'll be there at least every week, and there may be some opportunities for you to chat with some council members for as long as you may like at those open sessions. And so come on down to the farmers market, come see who the staff are gonna be at the city table, and also check out which council members will be there, I think mostly in July and a couple dates in August. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Nutting.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't have much to say other than the 6-gill are amazing creatures. I've been able to touch one. So I've been that close to a 6-gill myself. I do want to say that with Pride Month, it is Men's Mental Health Month as well. So if you know a fellow man that's going through trouble, dialing 988 will get you to the Suicide Crisis Health Line, or texting hello to 741-741 will also get you some help. So that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Harris.
Thank you. As I was saying, I've attended over 1,000 public meetings, and I have never seen any committee that had an indeterminate structure like this. And I did not support this because people vote for us, and then in the past we would appoint people to human services committees and groups that would do research on funding and then report back to us directly. That's the accountability. I find the new CAB to be less transparent and less accountable, and it does not address the demography of the city, and I don't even know where to begin. I attended the START meeting, and I mentioned that last weekend was the busiest weekend in the airport's history, and nobody really noticed, but it was having to do with Club World Cup. And boy, I attended a lot of games, and I just want to, there was a lot of talk about coordination with SeaTac Airport. And boy, next year, if we cannot book every available space for that week, we should just hang it up. That should be just at capacity for anything to do with hospitality. It's a layup, a dunk, whatever the metaphor is. And let's see here, anything else? Oh, yeah, there will be I was going to say, yeah, regarding the start, there's been a certain amount of energy now in other cities to talk about fairness, and I was very pleased to hear the city manager talk about the tax exempt property in town. It goes a bit further than that. My group has been working on maps of the area. You take a look at the homes that were removed by the airport with federal money, and then you look at what their present value would be and the tax revenue we would have versus, let's say, the warehouses that are there. And it's profound. It's just in our city, it's $25, $30 million. So there are, you really want to think about the costs of airport expansion, which go far beyond, people, they get their property bought out and then they move away, but then it takes away 7-8% of the lifeblood of your city. And you donate blood, you can live without 7-8% because it comes back. But that is money that has not come back, and it is something I hope we are looking at seriously as the next Part 150 study concludes. Thank you.
Councilmember Oxiger.
Thank you, Mayor. I have no report. Thank you.
Deputy Mayor Steinmetz.
Well, thank you. Boy, it's been a busy month so far with all kinds of things going around town. I enjoyed Pride Fest very much. I was there seeing everybody. There was also yoga at the theater that morning, and there was a soft opening of the Second Love Coffee Roasters. And so they now have everything in place. They've got their permits, and boy, that's going to be just a really nice store, and I think a lot of people are going to stop and spend some money there. Of course, the farmer's market, there were other things going on around town. Delridge Manor had a very nice barbecue that both Councilmember Harris and I attended and talked to people about their concerns up in the Delridge area. So, it was really nice. And then, of course, last night was the Citizens Advisory Board meeting. And, we've talked about that quite a bit now, and somebody has taken it upon themselves, and I don't want to name names because it's not about anybody in particular, but they put a mechanized transcript or an AI generated transcript out that is wildly inaccurate. It misidentifies people. It identified somebody named Jason, and there's nobody on that area named Jason. It was inaccurate. It couldn't distinguish between who was talking when and not. It left my name completely out of it for some reason, and I'm the chair of that committee. So my concern about things like that is that we have citizens who are volunteering to be part of the community. Somebody else is going to read that transcript, see something that's attributed to those citizens, and think, these are a bunch of idiots. There is even one line where somebody is quoted as saying, "I am a cat." And that's just crazy. If people want to do that, at least have the decency to edit it and make sure it's accurate before putting that out, because the ultimate impact of that will be discouraging people to volunteer. And we don't want that. We want people involved in our community. And so, just if you see it, ignore it. There are minutes coming out that are much more accurate. There actually is a video of it available on our website. Watch that. So thank you all very much, and have a happy 4th of July.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Appreciate that. Well, I'm looking forward to a summer of music and celebration. We've got a lot of stuff planned all over the city. It's going to be a fun summer. I'm enjoying the community. I appreciate being able to meet with colleagues, my sister city mayors. Quite often we talk about partnership opportunities, so I'm out there working opportunities to be able to partner, bring us together, so the things that we do here are not just us. Bring people into our city and help us to support our neighbors. We had speaking of people who give to the greater community, we had a sneaker ball a couple weeks ago since we last met, and that was a blast and very fun. It was dress up, wear your sneakers, and that was the Legacy Foundation fundraiser. Great participation, great event. Also, in the last couple weeks, a huge contingent of our faith community gathered from several churches wanting to talk about how they could support the homeless in our community. And they're partnering with some more regional, even state agencies. So I'm excited to, I'm hoping to get names and connect them in with maybe what we're doing with our nonprofits next year. It's really great to see I think there were 8 to 10 organizations in one room wanting to partner together to help the homeless. So kudos to them. Maritime High School just graduated their first class out of Maritime. That was so fun to go to their graduation. Another really fun student thing was they had Hero Day at Parkside Elementary. It's an annual celebration near the end of the year, and South King Fire was out there with all their lights blazing. Our officers were out there playing tag with the kids in the field. So PD was out there visiting with kids, and I appreciate seeing them. So that was a great day. Market's already been mentioned. Hope to see you down there. We had another great community event, Men in Black. That was really fun. I'm appreciating how citizens are taking it upon themselves to produce these celebrations and opportunities together. I think it was already mentioned, but the staff was down at Wooten Park, and there's a few other of these little pop-ups. Come to the park, visit with the staff. What's the next one?
The next one is at Cecil Powell, July 7th. And then there's one in August at Midway Park, August 2nd. And National Night Out is August 5th. But yeah, we're doing these pop-ups, casual, come and go, just a way to see city staff and ask us questions or tell us what's on your mind. We had maybe 35 people come Tuesday night, which is good for, trying this out and seeing how it goes. So.
Really great outreach. I'm just so impressed with the work that we're doing. We are listening to the residents, what they wanted. They wanted a Citizens Advisory Board committee. Every council member wanted it. We're doing that. We're doing outreach. We're doing communication. I'm just so jazzed. I had a couple other things, but I'm excited about the summer and the vibrancy that's growing inside of this city. I'm excited about it. So that's all I have. This concludes our meeting for the evening. Our next meeting date will be July 10th, 2025. It will be a City Council regular business meeting. Please remember to pick up after yourself on your way out. And do we have a motion to conclude?
I move to adjourn and get the hell out of here.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor? All right, adjourn. Woohoo.